Are you feeling stuck in your corporate job and dreaming of starting your own consulting business? Well, you are not alone. There are thousands of corporate executives out there who are feeling overwhelmed by the idea of making such a big change. But don't worry, I feel you because I've been there. And today I'm going to share exactly step by step what I did almost 25 years ago when I finally took the plunge, left that corporate job to start my own consulting business. And today I am so happy that I did. So I'm sharing my steps with you so you can confidently take that leap too. Let's get to work. So step number one that I did when I was finally in this space where I felt completely taken for granted, completely underpaid. They kept giving me more and more titles with not more and more money. And I realized that my corporate ceiling was going to be very low. I was never ultimately going to achieve the freedom financially or decision-making freedom that I wanted in my life. And I knew that I had to do something. And so the first step really was kind of mapping out my consulting business. I did a lot of brainstorming, and I, at the time, was thinking, am I brainstorming just to buy time? Am I brainstorming because I'm afraid, or am I brainstorming because I need to be brainstorming? And the reality of it is, and I'm here to tell you because my hindsight is your 2020, you have to map it out because brainstorming is critical. First thing you've got to do is finalize your idea, right? You already recognize that for 15, 10, 20 years, you have been giving a skill set, a service, your time, your effort, your energy, your professionalism, your intellectual property to your employer or to multiple employers. So you already kind of have an idea and know what you want to do, but you don't have a specific area that you have identified where you can offer unique value because you're not really sure what's out there.
Not sure. I don't know.
So you've got to start by finalizing your idea and really identifying the niche that you belong in. Consulting is a huge market. You have chosen an amazing opportunity, but I already said it's huge. Yes, more and more businesses, corporations are turning to consultants for specific areas of specialization that they need taken care of in their organizations. And that means that just as many businesses out there that need consultants, there is probably a niche that consultant can be in. And so there may be tons of consultants already in that niche, and you need to identify what that niche is, right? Consulting is broken out into very specific markets. There's business consulting, and then inside of business consulting, there's several sub niches that you can grab onto. There's HR consulting, and inside of HR consulting, there's several sub niches. There's health and wellness consulting, and inside of health and wellness consulting, there's sub niches. So you get where I'm going with this. You have to spend some time to really figure out what niche you belong in and where you can really easily say, this is my industry, this is where I belong, this is who I serve, and this is how I can bring value. The other thing you've got to do inside of this map that you're creating is research your market. The only way that you're going to figure out your niche, the only way that you're going to figure out where you belong, the only way that you're going to identify who your competitors are, how big they are, if you've got even a chance at competing, is to do the research. And that research will involve you understanding the demand for your services. I know market research can be overwhelming, and the idea of doing it for most people, and I've heard you tell me this, is I just don't even know where to start. I can Google, I can do all of these things and get all of this information, but I'm not really sure what to do with the information and how to use the information to help me make a decision. And that, my love, is a whole separate video. I've already kind of done one on it, so make sure that you check it out here on CPTV. And I definitely teach it more in depth inside of my online courses, but market research is something that you have to do. So regardless of whether you feel confident in and how to do it, just do it, right? Get as much information as possible and use the information that you have to reflect on where you think you belong to see if there's ultimately a place for you. And the other thing you've got to do in this step in mapping out your business is, and I honestly didn't do a really good job at this when I started my first consulting business. I did a much better job at it when I started my second consulting business. And after I sold that one and decided, no, I'm going to pursue my real true passion and start my third and final consulting business, I did it the best. And that last consulting business is the one that took me over the edge into seven-figure land. And it's the one that I still ultimately do and provide today.
There it is! It's beautiful! Take your hat off, boy, that's a dollar bill!
So I didn't do this, but I'm telling you, because my hindsight is your 2020, that you've got to do it. You have to identify and define your ideal customer. Now, you're going to have multiple ideal customers throughout your entrepreneurial journey. But when you're starting this business, there is a population of folks out there that you are going to target, and you have to figure out who that is. Once you do that general targeting of what your ICA is, when you begin to build products and services, you're going to use that data of who that ideal customer is in order to start with where you belong. I know you've already got an idea of exactly what service you want to provide because you've been doing that right now in your corporate 9-to-5. But that doesn't mean that unless your ideal customer is the exact same customer as the people that you're working for right now, that product or service idea that you have is going to be the best one. So if you want to venture out into other markets and you see yourself being able to offer your skills and your consulting services to other types of audiences, then you really have to define who that is, figure out who they are, understand them, know their pain points and challenges, and then really literally build your services and your processes around them. As you add product or services and processes, your ICA will change. But no matter when you're adding them or what those products and services are, I can tell you from experience and being successful at it, trust me, that the first thing you're always going to do is identify the audience, because we have a habit as entrepreneurs, and especially you as a startup entrepreneur, of starting things based on your assumptions. And I have to caution you against that. Starting things based on assumptions will kill your ultimate dream. Or if it doesn't kill it, it will make it go very, very, very slow. I have coached, I have seen, I have witnessed from afar amazing, skilled, talented consultants whose businesses do not flourish because they really truly haven't identified who they are targeting. And because they haven't identified that and they don't know that audience and that ICA and that ideal customer intimately, their messaging sucks. And that messaging is how they market. And you cannot attract people to you that will actually give you money for what you're doing. And I'm not talking about any money, I'm talking about high ticket money, because you're a consultant and you're going to be charging a lot for your services. You're used to making a lot of money and you're not going to change what you're used to or that lifestyle just because you've decided to start your own business, right? I've seen them not be successful or end up having to go back into corporate or give up on their business dreams, or at the very least start all over because they haven't done this step. So while you're mapping this out, please pay close attention to defining your customer avatar, and then you want to move on to what I did next in order to be able to take this leap. The next thing that I did, and I remember doing this without really knowing what I was doing, was I created a transition plan and I set a quit date. And I think it was a day that somebody at my employer had really pissed me off, honestly. And I was like, done. I had made up my mind I was done. I was over it. I was exhausted. My mental health was suffering. And I was like, no, I have to be out of here by this date. And I remember setting my quit date to be like 6 months after that particular day. I was like, at the end of this year, I'm gonna get my bonus. I'm gonna use that money too, and I'm gonna be out of here. And I set that quit date because I was really tired of giving them my skill set and really basically being in this abusive, toxic relationship. If you feel what I'm saying, give me an amen down in the comments below, because I know you feel what I'm saying, because you wouldn't even be thinking about this if you wouldn't feel what I'm saying.
Uh-oh, Richard!
But I did create a transition plan. As you know, my thing is strategies, structures, systems, and squads. And so, of course, in true CP style, I had to create a strategy. And I have to tell you, you have to do the exact same thing. Whether you're comfortable in that space or not, you've got to create a transition plan. And that means you got to set a specific quit date so that you can really set a date to hold yourself accountable to. Choose a realistic timeline for when you want to leave that job, and then kind of work backwards backwards from that quit date, creating a timeline of all the tasks that you need to complete in order to be able to leave and stick to that quit date. That is literally what I did. My transition plan at the top had my quit date, and then I just kind of began working my way backwards through all the things that I had to do in order to be able to make it to that quit date. And you might be thinking, that's the problem, CP. I got a quit date in mind, but I just don't know all the things that I need to do in order to ultimately get to that quit date. And I'm going to give you some assistance with that here shortly, but you got to kind of create that timeline with those action items and kind of work your way backwards. And during that transition plan, I also paid a lot of attention to my finances. There were lots of different tasks, and I'll give you some information about what to do with that shortly, but you got to work backwards from that quit date and kind of create the task list and get your mind wrapped around all the things you got to do before you can do it. And then once you make that task list, you got to say, does this quit date realistic? Like, knowing what's going on in my life right now and what I got going on personally and professionally, am I going to really be able to do this? And I have to tell you, do not base whether or not you can do the quit date on the tasks that you've listed out alone. Also, make sure that you're prioritizing your mental health. I can honestly tell you that I moved my quit date 3 times before I actually stuck to it. And my mental health suffered because of it. I was beat up and beat down by the time I was done, by the time I actually did it. And I was devastated, and it caused me to actually quit before I was ready, right?
Eric Bischoff, screw you! I quit!
Because I hadn't really finished all the tasks, because I didn't prioritize the tasks properly. And then when I was finally at my wit's end, I just walked in and was like, I quit. And then I was like in a panic mode. So work backwards, use the tasks, but also make sure that you're calculating in how much longer you can stay in this toxic relationship, and figure out some things that you can do to make it not so toxic. And then while I was doing that, right, I was doing that transition plan, I got my business completely set up. I got it completely set up. I legally established it. I got my LLC. I picked out my name. I figured out my branding. I started making my marketing materials. I got my tax ID, my business bank account. I started marketing. I actually had a handful of clients, and I full-fledged professionally started my side hustle. I used it as kind of a test period and began testing out my ideas and products and services and pricing, really building out my processes. It was definitely work, because I had a full-time gig that I still had to be committed to and that I still had to make money at. But I was adamant and prioritized my dream and my business. And so this transition plan included getting everything up and ready to go, so that when I finally quit, I would be 100% confident that I was doing so. Now, I already told you I kind of quit a little early because I had hit my wit's end and really blew up on somebody and was like, I'm out of this piece. But you want to make sure that you've got that as well. Now, I already mentioned that you're thinking, RACP, what are all the tasks that I need to complete in order to do this transition plan? And that is where the consulting startup roadmap comes into play. I have had this as a cheat sheet and a checklist as a freebie for years. It is my #1 requested and downloaded freebie. And I decided while I was out on medical leave to actually turn it into an in-depth mini course to actually train you on what your task list should look like and what your roadmap should actually be. So this is a mini course now that is designed to help you confidently launch your consulting business with a clear step-by-step road map. Yes. And it's designed for you to be able to turn your corporate expertise into a profitable enterprise. It gives you all of the steps that you need in order to be able to complete this task list. And it's also going to give you an opportunity to get my transition planner. So you have to make sure that you check it out. The link is going to be in the description and the comments below, or you can grab it at CherylCperez.com/consulting startup roadmap. It is amazing, and I am giving it away dirt cheap, literally giving it away dirt cheap. So make sure that you check it out, click the links. Let me know if you have any questions about it. I'm so excited to be bringing this to you, and I want to make sure that you have access. So go ahead, check it out, click the link, and get started on your roadmap, boo, because that's the task list that you need. While you're down there, of course, do not forget to like and subscribe and comment and let me know your thoughts and let me know what you're struggling with, what your fears are. What are some of the things that you're still grappling with as you begin to to figure out how to take this leap, because taking the leap is also a process as well. And I got you. Now, the third thing that I did while I was preparing to take this leap and trying to take this leap was I really did build a financial safety net. I mean, I've already alluded to this. I was someone who was high earning income individual. I had life. I had obligations. I had kids. I had a house. I had bills. And I was just not comfortable and knew I wouldn't be comfortable just jumping out on faith. And so I had to ultimately begin to really buckle down and figure out the real true map of what my financial safety net needed to look like. That meant that I had to begin making per pay contributions to my business bank account. I had to. And I had to figure out what that bank account needed in order for me to continue to be able to build this business and set up my foundation while I was transitioning. It really wasn't that hard. And I've talked about this in another video before. I self-funded, owner contributioned my business. And in essence, it started by me creating a startup budget. I knew exactly how much money, I was going to need to start the business. And I went into my HR department and I asked for a direct deposit form that literally split up my paycheck. A certain amount was going into my business account as an owner contribution every single pay, and a certain amount was going into my regular account to help pay my bills. And in order to be able to do that, I had to really have a good grip on my personal finances as well. I had to know how much money I could afford to give, how much money, I was going to take away from my savings. But I really did think about the fact that building this business was going to be the ultimate savings account. And so I was really figuring out, all right, where does what money need to go? Exactly how much money needs to come from where? Exactly how much money do each of these buckets need? My savings, my current bills, and then ultimately my business. And then I had to begin to budget wisely. I did sacrifice a lot. I used to be a Sephora girl. During that time, I was Sephora, did not even blink at spending $80 or $90 on some foundation. And I learned some real cool tricks around, what drugstore foundation could do versus Sephora foundation. I cut my makeup budget. I cut my going out and drinks budget. I just made more decisions about my social life. I really did figure out interesting ways for my husband and I to go on date nights for free. I learned how to cook in bulk. It was amazing, actually. I realized how much power I truly had in controlling my destiny. And I was proud of the changes that I made because I was investing in ultimately what would change our lives forever. And so much so that even right now we have a special credit card for emergencies. And that was my emergency fund. I ain't gonna lie. It was a $10,000 credit card. I got it. I put it to the side, and it gave me the peace of mind to know that I didn't need to have $10,000 worth of cash on hand, that if an emergency happened, I was good to go, and that I could ultimately, tap into this credit card that I had set aside. Now, step number 4 that I did when I was taking this leap, honestly, was, I think I've alluded to it already, but I started my business as a side hustle and I began testing my ideas. I did. I took on my first handful of clients. I think in that original 6-month time frame that I gave myself, I may have had 2 clients. And then, of course, I pushed the date back 3 different times. So I ended up taking a couple of years to actually take the leap. But over the course of a couple of years, I had gotten to a point where I was generating an extra $35,000 to $40,000 a year worth of income. And I got a real good handle on my business, my idea, the services that I was offering. I got a real good handle on my processes. I knew what things I would change. I used what was happening at my job to make a mental note on what I wasn't going to do in my own business. And once I had gotten to that $35,000 to $40,000 mark, I realized if I wasn't giving 40 plus hours to my employer and giving it to my business, that $35,000 could very easily be over 6 figures, and I would be good to go. And once I was pretty sure that that was happening, I was ready to kind of take that leap. And so start as a side hustle, begin generating and getting your handful of clients to perfect, test, and optimize. And then when you get to the point where you can see the future and you can see the forest for the trees, and you've mastered all of the skills that's required to be a good CEO, do not fear. Go ahead, take that leap, because the side hustle is where it's at. It does require some skill. You got to make everything official. You got to work on your business in your free time. You got to have a massive amount of time management skills, and you got to build your brand, but you can do it. If I did it, you can do it, no question. And the last thing that I did when I was taking this leap was I took the leap. I mean, this story is hilarious now, but I was terrified then. But I did take the leap when I was ready, maybe a little bit before, I think mentally that I was ready, but I was ready in every other way, which I think gave me the confidence to walk out that day. And it was a really interesting scenario. I had gone in for a performance review with my boss, and I had kicked butt for that employer that year, and he basically told me, yeah, you know, we think you're amazing. We're going to give you this additional title, but we don't have any money in the budget right now for any raises. And I was like, what you say? Huh? What you mean?
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man.
And that was when I knew, you know, and then I said to him, well, you know, what about this or what about that? And he was like, that wouldn't be fiscally responsible for us. And the fire and anger that erupted all over my body, it began in the tips of my toes and began rising all the way through until literally I think my head was about to pop off.
So that's how you want to play it, old man? No dessert? Oh, sure. We'll eat our dinner right after you eat this.
And I turned to him and said, you know, staying here and continuing to give you my time, my talent, and my treasure is not fiscally responsible. Please accept this as my official resignation. I will have a letter on your desk in an hour. And I was floored. I mean, I couldn't even believe that it came out of my mouth. I ran to the bathroom, started crying. I called my husband. I thought he was going to kill me. He didn't. He was like, it's about time. So yeah, I took the leap. I quit the corporate job. I officially set up my home office. And then I began to focus every single day on growing my business full time. Even with my last, I think I gave them 3 weeks notice. I was like all in on my business. I was keeping the same hours. I was giving my business the same number of hours that I was giving to my employer. I did not let life interfere the same way I didn't let life interfere when I was working for somebody else. It was scary as hell, but with the right preparation, I was set up for success, and you will be too. So yeah, that's it. I mean, my step-by-step process for trying to leave my corporate gig and actually starting my own business, I would say, just to recap, was mapping out my business, creating my transition game plan, building my financial safety net, and then starting my side hustle. So I got everything set up, and then I finally took the leap. And today, my love, I am my own boss. I am the boss, the she boss. So if you are feeling overwhelmed, remember, you have got this. Do not be scared. I am so excited for you because trust me when I tell you, it is so worth it. And if you have any doubts at all, follow these steps because it's going to give you the clarity, it's going to give you the confidence, and do not forget to check out that roadmap. It's going to walk you through. No more lack of clarity, no more trying to figure it out on your own. I got you. Click the link, subscribe, hit the bell, and until next time, my loves, I will see you very soon. Bye-bye. Mwah!